Welcome back to Outpost Underground. If you thought Kiwix was cool and being able to publish a library over local Wi-Fi was groundbreaking, well, wait till you check out Internet in a Box. This takes it to a whole nother level. And I'm not talking about a rebranded Kiwix server like Gridbase's Pocket. That's just a library that serves up content over its local Wi-Fi. I'm talking about actual functionality of the internet applied in a way you could rebuild something that felt very internet-like, and everything from a small-scale single device to a spanning network connecting an entire community. This is something that I think would be very applicable for preppers all the way to Green Berets operating in an austere environment with local national forces. This thing has just so much capability built into it. And what I mean by capability is not just a library. That is a very important part, being able to organize and serve up reference data. But the internet is so much more, right? I'm talking about cloud storage. The Internet in a Box platform can actually link multiple users on that network into shared cloud storage. It has printing functionality, so people on that network can access a shared printer and print documents. You can plug in a USB drive to the device and publish files. Anything from videos to lesson plans, even a newsletter. Whatever you want to keep the users informed and share, you can just plug that in and publish it to the network. You can't do that with just Kiwix. Now, you do have Kiwix, so you can browse the Kiwix catalog and download all of that content. But unlike the Kiwix server from Gridbase, this is actually an interactive component. You can download, you can archive content, you can delete it, you can refresh the catalog, download the new content. It's very interactive. You're not just stuck with what you get. There's also maps, so you have mapping capabilities, whether it's roadways or satellite maps. You can get the entire world and look at it in pretty good depth. There's learning management systems available, so actual interactive applications that are being served up, like Sugarizer. There's also Moodle. If you haven't used Moodle before, it's kind of a weird name. It's more of a school level application, so you can build custom lesson plans and serve it up. But it is a pretty deep, high-powered learning management system. There's a lot that can manage. So if you're running a school in an austere environment or anywhere where there's education involved, that's a pretty good application that can be served up. There's interactive programming applications like Node-RED. There's plugins for Internet Archive, so you can download Internet Archive material. If you have ebook libraries, you can publish your ebook content for all local users to see. There's even a minetest server. So if you're not familiar with minetest, that's a game kind of like Minecraft, but it's housed on that device. So any local user can log into minetest and play minetest. You can also communicate over that. It's kind of a cool little thing. And also, there's a telephone aspect over free PBX. So that's more of a voice over IP, application. These are all things that are very common with the internet protocol. You're not going to find that on your standard Kiwix server. This is where Internet in a Box provides that foundation that can be built out into an actual service for grid down scenarios, preppers, people that are just into self-reliance, if you're living in remote places, Doctors Without Borders, military personnel in austere conditions with host nations. There's a lot of multilingual, multicultural content for this thing. It can really bridge a lot of gaps and provide a lot of capability. And all you need is a Raspberry Pi, a laptop, maybe a computer that can run Linux. We can run Linux, we can run Internet in a Box. And we can start scaling things that really fit our needs. Getting started with Internet in a Box is actually very simple. For this demonstration, I'm going to be using a Raspberry Pi 3 Model A Plus and a 256 gigabyte micro SD card. Now this hardware can easily be scaled up if we needed more robust capabilities, but Internet in a Box can actually use this lightweight hardware very effectively, and as I'm going to show, we can produce a product that is very low profile, low impact, but packs a pretty big punch. Getting started, I plugged in my micro SD card to my computer, and I've opened up the Raspberry Pi imager. So first we'll select our device, Raspberry Pi 3. We'll move over to the operating system, go down to Raspberry Pi OS Other, and choose the Raspberry Pi OS Lite. For storage, open that up. Should be able to find our micro SD card, no problem. Then we hit next, and we're going to edit our custom settings for the operating system. Okay, under General, pick a host name that you can identify on your local network. Then set your username and password. We uncheck the Configure Wireless LAN. We want to save that for the Internet in a Box configuration. And get your locale settings correct. For services, Secure Shell is great. Options, leave that default. Now that our settings are correct, we can go ahead and begin the imaging process. So we continue, and the Raspberry Pi imager will now go through and write and verify our operating system onto that 256 gigabyte micro SD card. Now that my micro SD card has been imaged, I'm going to take it and install it into my Raspberry Pi 3. Here you can see I also have a USB to Ethernet adapter plugged in. This way I can plug in internet to the device so that when I install Internet in a Box, it has the Wi-Fi free to configure its own Wi-Fi hotspot. And another nice thing about the Pi 3 is it has a full-size HDMI connection. So I can also connect my spare monitor and watch the boot process directly. Once it finishes booting, I'm going to see the IP address of that wired LAN connection, and that is going to let me connect via PuTTY to the remote terminal. Now if I don't have a monitor and I'm just booting it up blind, headless, then I can also go into my router, my admin portal, and identify that device by the host name that I just set for the imaging process, and find the IP address that it has been assigned on my network as well. With that IP address, I can now use my PuTTY application to connect to the Raspberry Pi. I use a Windows computer. If you need some help on finding PuTTY and downloading it, we do cover that in our Pi-hole tutorial, but it is a pretty easy process. Just Google PuTTY, it'll bring you to putty.org, and download the version for your computer. Once PuTTY successfully connects to the device, I can log in as my user account and enter my password. We will be authenticated to work on that computer. So now it is just like I'm sitting right in front of that Raspberry Pi. So first things first, before we install the big Internet in a Box system, I'm going to run sudo apt get update and sudo apt get upgrade. This is just going to make sure that our platform is up to date with all the current software and packages, and it will provide a pretty good base system for our Internet in a Box installation. Next, we need to find the command to install Internet in a Box. We don't need to worry about downloading individual packages or anything like that manually. We just need the one-line command for the terminal window. So we can Google that or DuckDuckGo that. It'll take us to the Internet in a Box website. Here's the command we need. So we copy that command, and then we are going to go back to our terminal window and paste that in. Okay, now that we have that command, we're back at the terminal, and we are going to paste that command right in. So I don't clear screen usually when I do tutorials. That way you can see everything that has gone on. Now that's how I like it, so that's what I do. But type in the command, hit enter. First thing is we get to set our admin password. So I'm going to stick with the default passcode just to keep it easy. And what kind of install do we want? Well, I want a medium sized. I've got a 256 gigabyte micro SD card. So 2 is what we're going to do. Now I do want to configure these custom options. So I hit yes. And we type in that command. So this basically gives us administrative rights for a text editor to edit this file, localvars.yml. Now, if you haven't ever used a text editor in a terminal, this is pretty much what it looks like. This document goes through and lets us change some settings on the installation for Internet in a Box. First up, I'd like to bump up my download timeout, especially on lightweight hardware. Usually just helps things run a little bit more smooth during the installation process. You see a lot of things that have a hashtag in front of them or pound sign. These are things that are commented out, so you can go through and read. There's a lot of documentation. One thing that Internet in a Box does really well is they document. So you can spend hours reading the documentation on this whole platform. And there's a lot of information around. It is very well put together. And even if you don't have any experience, if you're determined, you commit some time, you can figure out a lot of things. It is a very good platform to learn on, and it is very powerful in its capabilities. So it's a good combination. So going down, a lot of these things I'm going to keep the same. There's really only a few changes I'm going to make, but as you can see, some things, like remote it installed true, remote it enabled false. So there's a lot of things here that are installed but are not necessarily enabled. And we're also going to see that there are a lot of things that are not installed. Because we picked the 2 medium-sized installation, we're not going to get a lot of the bigger, more powerful applications by default. So I can go through here and select things that I want. Like if I wanted to install local, I could, but I don't want to. I don't need it. My space is at a premium, so we're going to keep this pretty trim and lightweight. But I do see something here that I want. Khan Academy. So I'm going to go back up here and change these false words to true. Now you got to be careful here. If you type these out, I made a mistake. You want to have a capital T and keep it just like all the other ones. Computers, they're very particular about these characters, so you got to be careful. We keep going on. Got some good stuff here. Got our sugar riser. Love it. Calibre. It's great. Some of these tools are for more system administrators, people that will actually manage these servers. These things are deployed in a lot of school-type settings, especially in austere places, underserved communities. And so, when you have something like this running at an institution, you want people that are actually pretty good at maintaining them. And so you do have some system administrative functions here. But here we got minetest. Definitely want minetest. I'm not a big gamer, but I can definitely appreciate some open world gaming, especially if it's end of the world, apocalypse. I just might want to get away and do some stress relief exploration. So that's it. Now we're done. We are going to Control-0, write everything out. Sorry, Control-O. That's going to save it, and then Control-X will get us out back to the terminal. We run sudo iiab again. It's going to give us the same thing. Maybe change that password. I don't want to. I want the default password. So it's going to go through, check some things out. It might need to reboot. We will see. There it is. So it's going to do some upgrades, and then it's going to reboot the system. After that, it's letting me know all I got to do is run sudo iiab again, and we'll be back in business. After the reboot, we can reconnect using our PuTTY application. Pretty simple. We type in our credentials, and we are logged in. So as it requested previously, rerun the command sudo iiab. Wants another password. I'm going to stick with the default passcode, and then the installation begins going. So it's going to run through the basic stuff it did before. I don't think this time it's going to need a reboot, but it's still going to check. And so now, if there's a problem, we will try to rerun it using sudo iiab again. Every once in a while I have had something pop up and I needed to reboot the system or something manually, and then I rerun sudo iiab and it's fine. But this installation is going to run through for about a little over 2 hours, and it was a clean install. It didn't run into any issues. So this is going to run, like I said, for a while, and then we're going to do a time warp and come back once the installation is complete. Fast forward to the end and everything is complete. Our installation was a success. So this screen contains some basic information, really just showing you the IP addresses for the device. We already knew one of them. The other one is the default IP address if you connect to the Wi-Fi of the device. So next I'm going to show us connecting to that independent Wi-Fi network, and then we're going to browse the content. After our installation was successful, it rebooted the device, and I'm going to look for the Wi-Fi on my computer. So I can see internet in a box. I'm going to connect. You may notice the Wi-Fi is open and not password protected. That's just how we set it up. If you wish, you can put a password here, but it's not required. So it's open to customization. The admin portal is password protected. That's that Go admin password it kept prompting for, but that is a separate aspect. So the main internet box will be open. Anybody with a Wi-Fi device can access it. Now that we are connected to the Wi-Fi, we can open a new browser window and navigate to 10.10.10.10. Here we can see all the content that was installed during our installation. And next, we are going to navigate to the admin portal. To access the admin page, we go up to our URL and just replace home with admin. This will take us to the main sign-in portal. Our username is iiab-admin. That is the standard default username for this platform. And our password is, of course, GoAdmin. So this will log us in. This is the main splash page for the admin portal. Here we can navigate over to utilities, check out some different things. We're going to go down to system storage. Here we can see we have 212 gigs available. Not too bad. We can also check out memory and internet speeds and everything else, but for right now we're just kind of moving around. Over to the content menus. The main part of the content has a quick pick. So if you want to quickly set something up for a specific purpose, a school, medical content, you can find it there. We're going to do some custom content selection. So first, looking at the zim files, tons of zims. We're going to select a OER2Go module, actually, for our first download. Here you can find a bunch of more interactive applications, but just different content than what Kiwix offers. So we're going to go with a medical encyclopedia, but there's, as you can see, all kinds of other stuff as well. And I will download this. as time goes on. But here we selected a module for download. Everything should be good. We can navigate over to the utilities again. I'm going to select job status. And here we can see where our job is at. How much the percentage of content is downloaded, if it succeeded, if it failed, all that good stuff. So we're going to do this, let it run, and then we'll come back and it should be downloaded successfully and populate in our content menu and everything else. So 1 minute and we'll be back. We are back and we can see that we downloaded our first module. Downloading content on Internet in a Box is this easy. It really is. Since our module downloaded successfully, we can go back out to the main page of Internet in a Box, scroll down to the bottom. This is generally where new content populates, and we can explore our new module. So we have a medical encyclopedia, very cool. You can see all kinds of medical information about all kinds of topics. But most importantly, now that we know things are running like they should, content is downloading, menus are populating, we can go back to our admin portal and go back to the Install Content tab, select some more content. So I have about 200 gigabytes or so of space available. I'm going to try to fill that up as best I can without going too crazy and configure something I think would be pretty useful in a grid down scenario. Back again. So I have finished downloading a whole slew of Zim files and OER2Go modules, some map data, TED Talk videos, all kinds of stuff. Everything from medical care to child education, interactive learning modules. There's a whole gamut of things. I've tried to organize it kind of how it makes sense. You can kind of see I've organized, the food, recipes, water purification, it's kind of all grouped together. All the medical stuff is grouped together. A lot of the learning modules were grouped together. Here is my Stack Exchange modules. They're kind of linked together. Wikipedia stuff, it's all grouped. And now I got my TED videos. They're all also grouped in together. So it kind of try to get it to make sense. WordPress is here at the bottom. That's kind of a cool thing. You may not mess with it, but it lets you make like a home page and you can do custom menus for your system, all that good stuff. A little bit more advanced though. So now that that's done, we can go back to our admin portal and we'll see just how much space I used in building this. Not that much, really. So as you can see, I used 137 gigs. Not bad. I've got 86 gigabytes left. So when you factor in wear leveling on the micro SD card and all that stuff, that's really not a bad place to be. So I should get some decent life and reliability out of this system. So here you can see the services that I've got enabled. Well, this should look pretty familiar. It's really what we configured in the install process in that text document in terminal. But we did see minetest. It is there. It is running. So here's a quick little example or glimpse of how minetest runs, how it works, and how this Pi 3 can actually run a gaming server. So on my desktop environment, I can show my Wi-Fi connection. First, it's Internet in a Box. So we know that's great. I'm connected directly to the Raspberry Pi. So I do my minetest executable shortcut. Here we have the minetest window. You can see my IP address is the same as that Pi device. If you are new, you have to register. Don't worry, it's not going anywhere. You just pick a password for your username, and that's it, basically. So I've done this already, so I know my username and my password. So I logged in, and here we are. Looks remarkably like Minecraft, but it is not. It's kind of like the old Minecraft, but it's a great little game, little server. Multiple people can play it. Very cool. Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet is how to shut down the Internet in a Box. You don't want to do an uncontrolled shutdown if possible, especially with the micro SD card. Those have a tendency to corrupt and things could just get really bad after that. So shutdown is not too hard. What you do is you go in, there's no shutdown on the main page by default. Logic being you don't want like a student or somebody else to shut down the whole system and just kind of throw a wrench into the machine. So you have to log into the admin portal, which we know how to do. You log in there, and like you may have noticed previously, there on the main page is a power off server button. Hit that, and it will go into shutdown mode. Might take a minute or two, so you don't want to unplug it from power immediately. Give it a couple minutes, everything should be safe, unplug, and you're ready to go. That about wraps it up for our first Internet in a Box video. If you followed along, you should be able to get your own Internet in a Box up and running on a Raspberry Pi or PC running Ubuntu Linux. This was a very brief overview and really a glimpse at what this project brings to the table. We hope this will inspire you to experiment, and we are working on more videos exploring elements of Internet in a Box in depth, as well as installations on other types of devices and more complex deployments. If you have a question, please let us know in the comments. We will do our best to get you an answer or solution. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time at the Outpost.